Okay, so now we're going to get started on building the doors for both of the ends of the media cabinet. Now there are some measurements that we need to take, and I'm going to take those measurements and then I'm going to transfer them over to a piece of paper so that I can show you how we do the easy math on this to make these doors the perfect size. Because when you make cabinet doors, you need something that's called a reveal. A reveal is just a little bit of space between the edge of the cabinet and also the edge of the top and the edge of the bottom. Then you also need a reveal in between the doors, and that's not only for the look, for the aesthetics of everything to look perfect and match, but it also ensures that the doors won't hit each other when you open and close them in the center. Because if you make them tight up against each other, even if you back bevel them, they're still going to touch. Okay, so you need a reveal. So first thing we need to do is take our measurements from top to bottom, which is easy to do. And we're going from the outside edge, and for the width of the doors, we're doing outside edge to the outside edge. And the way you're going to get the outside edge is there's two ways you can get it. One, if you didn't attach your boxes together yet like I did, then you can just hook it on either side and you can read the tape at the edge. If you are hooked together like this, you can still see a definitive line between the boxes if you look really closely. I mean, from there you really can't see it. It looks like one piece, but when you get up close, you can see the separation of the boxes. A measurement on both sides, so you get an accurate reading. Okay, so my measurement here is 415. So I'm going to write down length 415 millimeters. Remember, this is a custom media cabinet, so none of these sizes that I'm telling you here are going to be standard for any cabinet. This is custom built to the customer's specs for the space that it's going into. I'm going to hook it on the outside edge towards the top. Now remember, your most accurate readings are going to be the top and the bottom. So if there's any kind of a bow in the plywood and you measure in between the center here, you may be off by a millimeter or two. So take a measurement at the top. Measurement at the bottom, 762. So for the width, we have 762 millimeters. All right, let's head over to the notepad and do some math. All right, so here's the math that I already did at the top, okay? But I'm gonna go over it with you and call out the numbers as I go. So we need 2 millimeter reveal on this end right here, 2 millimeters, okay? We need a 2 millimeter reveal, the same on that side. We need one at the top and one at the bottom, right? 2 millimeters and 2 millimeters. Write that on all your sides. Now you know you're not going to forget to subtract that. Now, when I was talking about the center having a reveal so the doors don't hit each other, if you have 2 here and you have 2 here and you butt up another cabinet next to this, okay, you're going to have 2 millimeters on that cabinet door also. So this together is going to be 4. So what you want to do is a 2 millimeter reveal here and a 2 here, and your center reveal between those will be a 4. Okay? So this is going to come into play with the math. I'm going to show you how easy it is. So now, our top to bottom, we said, was 415 millimeters, top to bottom. Okay? Okay, so 415. Now we have to subtract. 2 millimeters and 2 millimeters, that's 4 millimeters altogether, right? So 415 minus 4, you get 411 millimeters. Circle that. That is the length of your door. Now, if you're doing edge banding around the door like I am, because I'm using plywood doors here, I'm making a solid slab door, you have to know the thickness of your edge banding. My edge banding that I'm using is 0.5 millimeter thick. So if it's a 0.5 millimeter edge banding on the top and 0.5 millimeter on the bottom, that's going to equal 1 whole millimeter. So I would have to subtract another millimeter from this, and I would actually get 410 as my overall dimension. Now, the length of the whole entire outside of the box. Don't get confused yet and try to separate the doors, okay? I'm going to show you how to do that. It's real simple. So we had 762 millimeters outside to outside. Now, we have 2 millimeter reveal here, 4 here, and a 2 millimeter reveal on the end there. So 2 and 4, that equals 6, plus 2, that's 8. So 762, subtract your 8, and you get 754, okay? Now, you're going to divide this by 2. 754 divided by 2 equals 377. So each one of your doors is going to be 377 millimeters. Now again, if this door has edge banding like mine does and it's 0.5 millimeter on each side, then I would be cutting these at 376, because then when I add the edge banding in, it's going to be 377 in total with the edge band. And now if you butt up another cabinet next to it and you follow this same mathematical procedure, you're going to have a 4 millimeter reveal here. There will be a 4 millimeter reveal here. Then in between these cabinet doors, if there's more cabinet doors here, there's another 4 millimeters. So everything will be perfectly aesthetic. I ripped these down using my parallel guides from TSO. You guys have seen that before, obviously in the previous video. So I eliminated that because I already previously cut these beforehand. So now I am going to show you the tips on cross-cutting these to make everything accurate. So first tip is going to be make sure that you are using a square MFT. You squared it up yourself. You checked it with a known good square, so everything's going to come out square. If you're not, you can use the TSO guide rail square on your guide rails, and you can cut everything with that. But you also need to use some form of a stop block so that everything is cut accurately and to the same dimensions. So if you're using the TSO guide rail square because you don't have an MFT, I've showed you how to do it before. You can attach your parallel guide to the guide rail square and set the flip stop on that, and that will give you the accurate cuts you need. So since I have the MFT set up as a crosscut station, I just move along like this in production style, and I'm going to first square up one end of the plywood. Now it's also important you keep your reference edge that you're cutting against the stop rail in the back. You need to make sure that you keep that edge, that reference edge, against this rail at all times. So the way you square everything up is you're first going to put it up against here, cut this edge off, then you have to flip it over end for end this way, keeping that edge against here and hitting the stop block with the square edge. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now. You've seen me do it before, but this will be like a little refresher course. So I have my kerf line in the MFT, okay? And that basically tells me where the guide rail is going to be and where the cut is going to be made. And you can see by putting it slightly past there, I already have some sticking out past the guide rail. So I'm going to make sure I'm just about cutting off just about 6 millimeters. You don't really want to cut off more than 6 millimeters or 5 millimeters because then you're going to be wasting extra material. The 6 millimeters not only gives you a guaranteed square edge, but it also helps maximize the dust collection. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure that I'm touching the back of my miter gauge here, my miter fence, whatever you want to call this thing, and I have it completely engaged all the way through. Now I'm going to make my first cut, and that's going to be my square edge. Then I'll set up the stop block. Now here's the important part. I know now that this is my square cut. I'm just going to flip this over the way it is right now, knowing this is my reference edge. I'm just going to scoot it off the table. I'm going to stand it up this way. I'm going to flip it end for end. Now, the way I designed this crosscut station is I have my workbench off to the side here for my offcuts, and that allows me to now cut this full length 8-foot piece into the sizes that I need. So we're going to set up our cut for that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pencil mark first, okay? So I'm going to go to my mark. That was 410. These are kind of short doors. I have my pencil mark right here, okay? First thing I want to do, I'm going to butt it up against the back fence. I'm going to make sure that I'm touching all the way across. You see I'm not touching here, so what I have to do is I have to adjust it, and now I'm touching completely. So now I'm just going to make sure the mark is kind of close to the edge of the kerf line so that I'm in the ballpark here. I drop my rail down. This is important now. I look and I see that I'm just over my mark. I want to split that line, okay? So now I have it right where I want it. So now I would bring the flag stop in, butt it up against the workpiece, and tighten up the flag stop. Now I know that I'm set. Go ahead and I can start making my crosscuts. Now here's a quick look at the way I do edge banding for the doors and other production runs. This is just a really fast method for me. I get a lot of comments and questions on Instagram. I do thousands of feet per year, and if you think that an iron is faster than this, you're absolutely out of your mind. You still have to read and understand the hinge instructions that you get from the manufacturer. So I'm just going to show you these, which I picked up from the local big box store. And basically the way I did it was I have this little jig right here, which I'm going to put in the description. I'll put the link for this, my Amazon affiliate link for this. These are really handy. So what you can see here is, if I get a little bit closer, you can see that I made some marks on there. And those are the holes that correspond here for the mounting plates of the hinges. And the way I'm going to do this is easy math, and then I'm going to use this to make the marks where the holes go so that I can put the screws in and everything will line up. So now this is really simple math I'm using here. We know that the doors have a reveal of 2 millimeters at the top and 2 millimeters at the bottom. Now if you cut everything right, that's dead on. And as you can see here, I'm actually dead on, right? I double checked all my measurements. So the easy way to do this is to take round off numbers that are easy to work with. From the carcass here, I'm going to measure down from the top. Right there, I'm going to hit the top. Now if you don't have a top on there, you're going to hook on the top of the outside of your carcass. And what I'm going to do is make a mark right here at 100 millimeters. Then I'll flip the tape around, and from the outside edge of the bottom, which I'll hook that, I'll come right here, and I will make another mark here at 100 millimeters. And the reason I have the tape on here is so that I'm not marking up my finished work. Now, if you haven't sanded this down, or if you just mocked everything up in place and you didn't screw anything together and you're going to take it apart again, then you don't have to do this. But I have everything pre-finished here, so I'm putting the tape on, and most of you are going to have pre-finished. So I made the mark here, then I take this little jig right here, and with the template markings, I'm going to put that right up against my mark, the 100 mark. And you can see here in this diamond, this little triangle here, it has a space right at the point. That's where you're going to line up your mark. Okay, so I got you in as close as I possibly can. I don't know if you can really see my pencil marks, but if you look at the jig, it has this little triangle here at the top and the bottom. And basically you have to put it on the right side that you need to use. And this is a 35 millimeter cup hinge. So I'm using the 35 millimeter side. So the 37 millimeters away from the edge of the cabinet, which is an industry standard, I marked off where the hinge plate, the mounting plate holes will be, which are 37 millimeters away from the edge right there. So you can see where I made the marks. So now what I'll do is I will take this little jig, and here's my pencil mark, and I'm going to put that right at the center of my triangle. And then what I'm going to do is take a really sharp awl and then put it in the center of the holes, and I'm going to push into it so that I actually puncture and dent the spot. And now I see where my holes are. Drill them out slightly, keeping the drill right in that hole that I made. Just go in a little bit. Just enough to get the screw started. And now here are the mounting plates. And I like to mount these by hand with a posi drive screwdriver. So what I'm going to do is I'll just put these, now you want to center it because these are adjustable up and down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it over my pilot holes. I'm going to put a screw in there just like that. Put another screw by hand in the other hole on the bottom. And I'm just going to get these started just so that I'm not fumbling around and everything is falling. And remember, these are adjustable and so are the hinges. So I'm going to tighten that up. I'm just going to snug that in place, making sure that I'm straight. And if you want to double check if you're square to the front of the carcass, you can definitely use a square to check that. You can also use this jig to check that and see, and you can see that I am perfectly square to the edge. Okay, now I have the vacuum clamp working here. That's where I'm going to do this. So if you hear a little buzzing in the background, that's what that is. I'll have to talk over it. So this is another door, and basically I want the hinges on this side. So what I'm going to do is flip it over, put it on the vacuum pad, just like that. We have to remember that on the cabinet carcass, we came down from the top and the bottom of the box 100 millimeters. Well, this is 2 millimeters shy of that on each side. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark off 98 millimeters on this. 100 minus 2 is 98. So we're accounting for that 2 millimeter reveal. Now I'm just going to put my pencil there, and I'm going to use this jig to actually extend the line. And this actually works as a square as well, so it's multifunctional here. Okay, now I extended the line. What that's going to help me do is when I'm using the Craig jig here to drill this out and bore out the hole, this has a center line. I'm going to line up that center line with the center of the line that I made here. And then I'm going to clamp it in place. Now I already have these dials set to the number 4, which gives me the exact 37 millimeter to the center of the hole that I'm going to bore. So that's why I say you really have to know what hinges you're using. And this is a 35 millimeter boring bit, and this attaches to the plate, twists and locks in place. A perfect 35 millimeter bored out hole, 37 millimeters to the center of the hole that's bored out as per the manufacturer's specs, and then you install a hinge like this. Now, I'm going to be using a VIX bit. This is a self-centering bit. What this is going to do is going to allow me to center that hole perfectly so that I can drill pilot holes for the screws of the hinge. My pocket rule, and you can just butt it up against the edge of your cabinet door. So this way you know that when you drill this out, you're going to be installing this perfectly square. And it doesn't take much, you don't have to go that deep. I'm going to snug it up and not tighten it all the way, because when I put in the second screw, yes, it's going to start to self-center the hinge, but I want to make sure that I am completely square as I tighten this down. If you did all your math right, then everything should just line up and slip right in. And now for the bottom. It's also hard to do this at this level down here on the floor. That's all clipped in, and now we're going to see how it closes. And that's not too bad. Let's check both doors. Okay, now you can see they're hitting, okay? And that's because the reveal on this side is way over. So this side here, we have to make sure we make it to a reveal of 2 millimeters. So to adjust these, we're going to use the screws right here. And what I'll do is keep it straight and turn it back a little bit there, back a little bit there, and that's actually moving the door. Now when I close it, I'm going to check my reveal on this side, and then I'll turn you here so you can see it better. Alright, so that is at a whack on the bottom. I'm going to go this way on the top a little bit. That should straighten everything out. And that's roughly 2 millimeters there. Now to move this door over, this screw right here, I turn it counterclockwise and I watch it go back. And then turn the bottom and I try to get it right about the same distance. Now try to close the door and I'll check my reveal on the end. Okay, now we're looking good. So the only thing left to do now is to take these doors off, sand them down, and then put the stain and the finish on them. And I did the staining and finishing off camera just to save some time. Okay guys, so the media cabinet finally done. This is the second part in the series, so make sure you go and watch the first video on how I made the entire thing. And this turned out great. We've got to deliver it tonight. The client has to pick out some hardware for it so that we can put some handles on there. And you can see the soft close hinges. Everything is adjusted properly. And we have even reveals all the way around each one of the sides. This is going to stay open because the Bluetooth speaker and whatever else, I think the control unit is going to be in here, so that's going to remain open. This is the fixed shelf, and that's it, all closed up, ready to go. I'm about to deliver this right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys got a lot of information and techniques and things about building doors, and I hope you guys will consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. Don't forget to check the description box for the links for all the tools that I used in this build, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time in the shop. Thanks for joining me.